Hello everyone and good morning. This is Rachel live from Kalkine Studio and you're watching The Opening Bell. While the US corporate season, domestic quarterly updates and key economic data are closely eyed by market participants, raging virus threats in India put pressure on oil prices, continue to cast dark shadows to the key global indexes. Let us cast an eye now over how market charter is panning out today. The Australian benchmark index fell 0.8% on Friday, losing 56.5 points and closing the week 0.5% lower at 7,025.8. The ASX 200 is up today, gaining 0.44% to 7,056.40. This driven by strong results from the Westpac Group. The top performing stocks in this index are the CIMIC Group and Ampol Limited. Overall, IT, materials and energy sectors are under the pressure, while utilities and financials are trading in the black. Australian shares may now see some downward momentum today, with local miners and oil companies expected to be under pressure following last weekend's sectoral performance of the major US markets. We can also see virus havoc in India is keeping the oil prices under check. India is still battling a devastating second wave of coronavirus that has overwhelmed hospitals, morgues, crematoriums. Second only to the United States in total infections, India has reported more than 300,000 new cases daily for 10 days in a row now. Moving on to the major newsmakers, the biggest news comes from one of the big four banks, Westpac Banking Corporation. Now, Westpac has announced a better than expected cash profit in the first half of 2021, and this is due to continued economic recovery in Australia and over in New Zealand. The statutory net profit was recorded at $3,443 million. That's up 189% in the given period. Another big update comes from specialty retail fashion chains owner Premier Investments. The company says it would repay full net benefit of $15.6 million it received from JobKeeper. Meanwhile, Australia's leading cotton processing and marketing organisation, Namoi Cotton, would raise $12.2 million across a $7.2 million institutional placement of shares and an additional $3 million to $5 million via share purchasing plan to existing shareholders. Moving on now, Perth-based gold exploration company Westar Resources has announced completion of negotiations to facilitate Westar becoming the 100% beneficial owner of the Birrigrin Mining Centre. That's adjoining the Gidgee South Gold Project. Deterra Royalties Limited is in the spotlight, confirming $36.4 million of total royalty receipts for the March 2021 quarter. Operator of an online platform that directly connects Asian influencers with high quality and authentic Australian brands, AUMake Limited has announced that its Chief Financial Officer, Peter Shao, has resigned. He's resigned to pursue a new career opportunity, and this will be effective from the 3rd of May 2021. Shao would be replaced by Tony Grana as the new Chief Financial Officer. And lastly now, the RPM Group has delivered a record performance over the third quarter for financial year 2021, with all divisions delivering a solid revenue performance. Group revenue for the quarter was up 59% to $14.5 million, beating projected forecasts by 16%. Let us now look at the US market performance overnight. That is closely tracked for cues. The US market stocks dropped on Friday, with Apple, Alphabet and other tech-related companies falling despite strong quarterly earnings reports. The Dow Jones fell 0.54%, closing at 33,875.31, while the S&P 500 lost 0.72% to 4,181.21. The Nasdaq Composite slipped 0.85% to 13,962.68. Most of the 11 major S&P 500 sector indexes were lower, with technology and materials down more than 1%, while energy fell 2.2%. As the world markets fell on Friday, the US dollar posted its largest daily gain since late February. Data showing a recovery of 4.2% in the US consumer spending in March amid a 21.1% increase in income as households received Biden government's aid, and that helped their dollar. Moving on to the performance of bond market and the greenback now. On Friday, the U.S. Treasury yields slipped from upper levels. That's as investors purchased the debt to rebalance their portfolios. This was all despite fears of higher inflation as businesses reopen. The benchmark 10-year notes rose 4/32 in price to yield 1.6276%. That's compared to 1.64% on Thursday. The dollar index rose 0.735% on Friday. However, the index still recorded its worst monthly performance since July 2020. On that note, let us see what could impact the markets this week. The global markets are expected to react to the new record of over 400,000 a day coronavirus infection rates in India. France's health minister has also raised concerns over the dangers of the COVID-19 variant that is present in India and said it must not be underestimated. Overall, investors will closely eye half-yearly earnings from 3 of the 4 of Australia's big banks over the week. Oil prices fell on Friday. That was on concerns about wider lockdowns in India and Brazil. The Brent crude futures settled at 1.9% down at $67.26 a barrel, while the WTI crude futures closed 2.26% down at $63.54 a barrel. The oil companies such as Santos, Beach Energy and Oil Search are expected to face some selling pressure. Meanwhile, the gold prices softened. Spot gold fell 0.3% to $1,766.89 an ounce, while the US gold futures settled 0.14% lower at $1,767.30 an ounce. Meanwhile, investors would also wait for the US employment report for April, which is expected to be released later in the week on May the 7th. Australian investors will closely track data on building approvals and international trade in goods and services. The Australian Bureau of Statistics data for new borrowers accepted finance commitments for housing, personal and business loans would also be out this Thursday. And the Reserve Bank of Australia is meeting on Tuesday. A speech by Deputy Governor Guy Debelle on Thursday, along with the statement on monetary policy on Friday, will be keenly tracked. Now that's all for now. Please stay tuned for more live updates on Kalkine TV across the economy, markets and other sectors. We'll be back in a while with our next live update, the Stocks in Action show. For now, I'm Rachel Jones signing off for Kalkine TV.